Every year, millions of Americans are exposed to a contagious virus.
It's not a disease.
But it's toxic.
It's not genetic.
But we're all at risk.
You can contract it from a stranger or a friend.
You can catch it at the movies.
Or by listening to a song.
And if you spent even a minute on the internet,
You've definitely been exposed.
What is this virus? It's stigma.
Stigma.
It's stigma.
stigma may not directly affect you.
But it harms the 1 in 5 Americans living with mental health conditions.
Stigma promotes an environment of shame,
Fear and silence.
which prevents millions of people from seeking help.
Stigma isn't just harmful. You also risk coming across as a real jerk.
But there's good news.
The National Alliance on Mental Illness believes stigma towards mental illness is 100% curable.
And it's pretty easy to find out if you have it.
So do yourself and everyone a favor.
Go to curestigma.org and get tested for stigma.
Welcome to My Healthy Mind. I'm Michael Hunter. There's a lot going on right now with the coronavirus and social isolation. Thus, I'm coming to you from my home instead of the studio. There's enough going on to challenge anyone's mental well-being. And like so many others, we here at My Healthy Mind want to do something to help. So we've gone back through our archives of some 77 shows to cobble together messages of hope, messages of strength, and inspiration from our many guests, all of whom have faced mental health challenges and triumphed.
I lived in an abusive relationship for 18 years of my life and experienced different forms of domestic violence, from verbal to emotional, psychological, physical, financial, just about every type of domestic violence over the course of the 18 years. The abuse started from day one, the day that we got engaged. So he took me, after we went to the mosque and we did the religious marriage, he took me to an alley. My friends were waiting for me at the house and my cousins, and he took me there and he started beating me up in an alley. And I remember driving down Tireman, going west. He was driving and I tried to throw myself out of the car, and he pulled me by my hair and he said, "Where do you think you're going?" Met him at age 17. By 18, I was married with a child. By 19, I had my second child. He would put me in a corner for hours while he held a gun, pacing back and forth, telling me about how he would, kill me, how he would dismember my body if I was to tell anybody about the violence. He beat me when I was pregnant. I remember 3 days before I delivered my second child, the neighbors had called the police, and EMS arrived, I remember at that time, and I remember blood gushing down my face. And there was 2 gentlemen who came to the home and, asking me what happened, and I told them that I fell, and they're like, you don't want to go to the hospital? And I'm like, no, because I was scared. And they're like, okay, then just sign. And there's other instances where he, would physically abuse the children. One that kind of stuck with me was when the boys were 5 and 6 years old, and we had a birthday party in the home. It was winter time, and the boys started, arguing over their gifts and who would take what. And he had taken them upstairs while we still had guests in the home. And I was very, very anxious. I couldn't wait till the guests leave, but I was scared at the same time to go upstairs. But they were quiet. I didn't hear any noise. As soon as the guests left, I ran upstairs to find my 2 boys naked and their hands against the wall, standing on one foot. And he had beaten them up so bad that their bodies were bruised. So during the course of the 18 years, there was 3 places that I would go after being abused. One was the ER, where often I would get there and say that I fell or, come up with some excuse. I would go to my family, who would then just send me back to the abuser, or I would go to our faith community, in which I was told over and over again that a good Muslim woman protects her family, and it's her job to keep the family together, and that if I just obey him, then I wouldn't have any of these problems. The physical abuse is just one aspect. Those are just bruises and marks, and if you survive them, they go away. It was the torture, the psychological, mental, and emotional abuse that I endured during those 18 years. I was crippled by fear. I could not think straight. I could not concentrate. The only thing that kept me going was my faith in God and my children. I knew that I had to survive. I knew I had to stay alive to take care of my kids. And I think a lot of people don't understand. There's not a single abused woman out there that wants to remain in that situation. Nobody. But the fact is, it's so hard to get out once you're in, and the fear. The fear of what may happen. I had no one and nowhere to go. The question that many people will ask is, why do you stay? Why don't you just get out? But instead, what they really should be asking is, what can I do to help her get out? You need a support system. That's the number one thing. And then start thinking and planning, what is that going to look like for you? I started envisioning what it would be like to go walk into a home, a room of silence, peace, and that's what helped me too, is to have that vision. There was this video in my head. Everyone during the course of the 18 years that told me I can do it, I deserve better. The smiles, the kind gestures, anything would play. People that I had not seen in years, just popped up in this video. And that video gave me hope, and it gave me strength that, yes, I can do this. And I did. I would have never, ever, ever dreamed of being first being alive, and second, being where I'm at in my life. I'm incredibly happy. I sometimes sit back and I'm like, I'm alive. I did it. I did it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it.
Well, when I was 2 years old, my biological parents, mother and father, who were both heroin addicts, gathered myself and my two brothers together one afternoon and put us in the car, took us downtown, stood us on the steps of the city courthouse and said, we want you to stay right here. We're going to go get you guys something to eat. And they left and never returned. And we stood there until late evening as people were getting off work and passing us by. And one lady in particular walked past us, and she kind of recognized our situation. She said, come on, you guys, come and get in the car with us and go with us. And my middle brother, who was 3 years old at the time, really protested because he was remembering that Mommy told us to stay here, and if they come back, they won't be able to find us if we leave. But we were placed in the car, and the lady happened to be a social worker, and she took us to Child Protective Services. We were, and in those days, they only had a limited number of people that were trained and licensed to be foster parents. So they literally put us in a car and drove us to a home and took us out and took us up to the door, and people greeted us, and they said, hey, these 3 kids need a home. And the people said, well, we only have one spare bedroom with twin beds, so we'll take the 2 youngest ones. So not only did we suffer the tragedy of being abandoned, but also the horror of being separated from our sibling on the same day. And I was just a little bitty thing, and I remember one of the things I remember is that my foster mom, Rosie Yerby, would always say, come and sit beside me in the big chair. And it was just enough room for me to slide in and sit with her. And so that helped me to bond. I started noticing little differences in other people that I knew that were in foster care, and it actually made me very pleased and recognized how fortunate that I was in that our foster parents treated us like we were their own children. And in fact, I knew that our foster mother would make sacrifices, you know, like she would look at a new pair of shoes for herself and say, nah, I'm not gonna do that this month. I'll get the boys some tennis shoes or sneakers. I got an academic scholarship to be a Hoosier Scholar, which meant that I had a full ride at Indiana University. Technically speaking, if I didn't go to college, I had no place to go. Now, I knew I had a great relationship with my foster parents, and they weren't the type of individuals that were going to put me out on the street. But at the same time, I knew that I needed to move on and to start embarking upon my own life, and the choice I made was to go to college. Most foster kids would leave a home at age 18 with their personal belongings in a garbage bag, and they're out in the world just trying to make it. About 65% of the boys would transition out of foster care into prison, and 45% of the young women transition into homelessness, prostitution, substance abuse. At age 18, an individual can now sign up and become a part of what is called Young Voluntary Foster Care. And the Young Voluntary Foster Care system provides benefits, a stipend and health benefits and other benefits for the young people as long as they are working full-time or working 20 hours a week part-time and going to school part-time or going to school full-time. In 2010, we launched an organization called the Center for Urban Youth and Family Development. And our purpose is to work with youth that are in and transitioning out of the foster care system, to provide them with substance abuse prevention, life skills development, and workforce development opportunities. You know, everybody's waiting for a lucky break, but to me, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And I learned that at an early age, so I spent my entire life preparing myself. And then my foster mother would constantly say, hey, I don't care what you make out of yourself in life, but I just want you to grow up to be somebody, make something of yourself. Because everybody knows that somebody's gonna do it, and I am somebody. Somebody's gonna help youth in foster care. I am somebody. Thank you.
Welcome to My Healthy Mind,
a show that dares to talk about mental health matters that touch nearly every family. Each week you'll meet guests who share their stories, hear from local experts, and learn about resources that may help.
And so I was in a committee meeting at the House of Representatives when I realized that my daughter had autism.
We need to take the stigma away from mental health issues.
No topics about mental health and wellness are off limits on our show.
Let's talk about it on My Healthy Mind.
At Team Wellness Primary Care Center, you will find all the basic services you need to be well and stay well. Come in for all your screenings. Come in for routine physicals and checkups. Come in for full-service dentistry. Come in for vaccinations and immunizations. At Team Wellness Primary Care Center, we take care of your total health. Team Wellness Primary Care Center. Come on in.
I think today teens are put under a lot of pressure, of course, with school, with their parents, with themselves, and even outside of that today, like the social aspect of a teenager's life is obviously so hard. I mean, there's social media that's factored into it, and like when your brain isn't fully developed, it's so hard for you to have a bigger perspective, see that there's more beyond life after high school, after middle school, after this day-to-day same routine things. And I think that's really hard for kids to not be able to see what's good for them down the road, further in life, and just they see what may be hard or what may be boring or routine right now. I mean, especially junior and senior year in high school, you have your friends, you have your friends' parents, you have your coaches, everybody's saying, oh, where are you going to school? What do you want to study? What do you want to do after college? And all of a sudden, it's all of these questions piling up. And these aren't questions like, oh, what class are you going to take next year? It's like, what are you doing with the rest of your life? And especially being like a 16-year-old, that's such a big thing for me, and try to even comprehend, and for me to, on that spot, try and think, what am I doing with the rest of my life?
And it's almost like you're competing against everybody around you. Like, there's only a certain number of spots at a certain school, so it's like a competition. If you don't get in, then like your best friend could be your biggest competition, and it sucks because it's like, you're my best friend, but now we're competing to get into the same school, and I have to do better than you.
Even on smaller scale, it's like we're all competing to get the most pictures on Instagram, or to get the most likes on Instagram, to have the most followers on Twitter. It's like everything today has turned into a competition. There's less spots for you on the tennis team. There's less spots for you at the lunch table. There's less spots for you. There's less spots for you at your dream college, and that's just like a hard world to live in, being afraid that you're not going to make it anywhere you want to go.
We all just like live in this utopia on social media, and it's like, how do you get out of it? It's like everyone's just so connected to their screens, and it's like we live in two different worlds, and it's crazy. And like, it's almost like you feel like you're more in control in your fake world than your real world, so that's why people do it. It's like, you feel like you're in control of what you look like. You can edit your picture however you want to. You can make it look like you have this perfect life and live in this utopia, but really you don't. It sucks you in, and it makes you not want to do things if you can just sit at home and like scroll on your phone. And like, I guess we all have this fear of missing out, but what if like that fear disappeared when we were on our phones, and we could just like, we can FaceTime people, we can like interact with anyone who we want, like from millions of miles away, we can talk to anyone we want to. So it's like, why would we leave our rooms when we have the whole world at our fingertips?
When you're having a conversation with somebody, not able to look them in the eye, not able to focus when they're talking to you, zoning off, not being able to continue a conversation, because it's so much easier looking at a message coming into your screen, sitting there having time to reply, and then also getting instantaneous feedback when you text a message and it just pops right back up on your screen. That's not how the real world works. That's not how real conversations work, but that's what kids today are used to.
For me, I really struggled with depression and self-harm, and just like never being able to break myself from my own mind. Like, I was just so stuck in my head, and I could never make my mind a nice place to be in. Like, I have to live with myself for the rest of my life. I'm the one who I'm going to spend the rest of my life with. So how do I make it so I don't feel this way? I couldn't even get out of bed in the morning. How was I supposed to go to school and face the world every day? And it came to the point where I recognized that if I wanted to get better, I had to really want it. Other people could say like, oh, you're not putting enough effort. In reality, I was trying my best. I was trying my best to get better, but yeah, I had to really want it.
So a couple years ago, I was having some struggles, and I decided it was time to talk to a therapist. And at the time, I didn't realize the importance of finding that right person to talk to, not only finding a person to talk to, but somebody who you're comfortable with, somebody helps you. And I went back to this therapy, and it felt good to get out what I needed to say. It's a two-piece thing. You need that person who lets you vent, and you need somebody who's going to give you tough love when you want it, and somebody who's just going to be there and say, yeah, your feelings are totally valid. And I think it's definitely a journey, and it's a process trying to find somebody or multiple people who can understand, or who may not even understand, but who want to understand and who want to help you.
I felt like I couldn't speak to my parents just because like I had this perfect life and all, and like, I don't know, I guess I felt like I couldn't be sad. Like, there wasn't a space for me to be sad. It's okay to have these feelings, and that your feelings are so valid. It's just about like recognizing that they're valid and realizing that it's okay to talk about it. But I was able to start that conversation with my parents, and it led me to a totally different world. I started therapy, I started taking medication, I started going to treatments, and it was so beneficial to me. And I don't know where I would be today if I hadn't initially had the courage to start that conversation.
Like, it shouldn't be a topic that's uncomfortable. It shouldn't be a topic that's avoided talking about.
And I want people to say that because of you, I didn't give up. And I think it's a really powerful message that I just have like so much power, and like I have so much to say, and I don't want it to go unheard. And I think that's something I really want to do, is just spread my message. For me, I think I just want to spread the message that the pain is real, but so is hope, and that there is validation in everything you're going through, but you have to realize that your light is coming, and I'm sorry you have to wait for it sometimes, but if you put in the work, you can turn your pain into power, and I think it's really powerful that you're able to do that.
Just be nice to everyone. You really just have no idea what's going on in somebody's day, what's going on in somebody's life, and honestly for me, and I think once everybody realizes this, everybody else goes on with their life keeping this in mind. When you help somebody else, there's really just no better feeling, and when somebody helps you, it can really make a difference in your day or your life. So I mean, I think if everybody goes on with that pay it forward idea that somebody does something nice for you, you go off and do something nice for somebody else. Just be nice to everyone, help everyone around you, and good things will come of it.
Before my accident, I was pretty active in school and stuff, and I played a lot of different activities, and I was in marching band, played football, basketball.
His name is Drew. Picked it out of a name book because of what it meant. It's that for strong and sturdy. He truly is very strong and sturdy.
One day in the hallway at school, me and some friends were just joking around, and we started doing backflips. And when I went to go do a backflip, I landed on my neck and just landed wrong. Woke up in the hospital.
By the time he started remembering things, each day he was probably having 50 or 100 people come in his room to visit him in the ICU. And so they used to have a rule where they only let him in 2 at a time, but there was so many that it's like, okay, we'll make an exception. And so they'd pile in there. Some of his music friends would bring their guitars, and they'd jump in the bed, take selfies with him, and talk about the same stuff they were talked about before he got hurt. So he was always optimistic, and we were always optimistic and still are. So we immediately went into what is going to take to get him fixed versus accepting this as a new way of life. You know, that wasn't even a thought. I've always raised them to be optimistic. You know, we wasn't the richest family in the world, and they always had challenges, and they had to be raised with divorced parents. And the last thing I wanted to see happen to them is that they lose faith or belief in the things they could do with their life and lose the reality of how wonderful life is. Finally, when it reached a point where they came and sat me down in the ICU, and your mom was with me, and they kind of told us that at this point that he was going to be a quadriplegic.
It was all about rehabbing to try to regain some movement and seeing where I was at and what was possible and what was going to come after that. Because I still have the idea that I'm going to walk again one day.
Absolutely.
Between, I know, I didn't really have any time to grieve. I never really got down.
So you had said something pretty clever, and basically you had said that with all the support and all these people caring about you, it was really shocking for you and you felt like you couldn't let anybody down. So I thought from that point that was a strong motivation for him, is that he didn't want to let anyone down who was showing him support.
Yeah, because it's one of those things, you have all these people showing you all this support and everybody being there for you. It's like, how can you be down? Like, how can you be sad with all this great things you're able to do? Since my accident, there's been so many examples, but whenever there's any type of situation where I have any type of doubt, it always works out. So I'm at the point now where my faith is more so, it's not if something's gonna work out. I know it's gonna work out, and that's just where I'm at with it. And it's one of those things, something our pastor mentions, he likes to talk about the Lord's Prayer, and the one line is give me this day. And honestly, that's all we've gotten, and that's all we keep getting it. And we always just keep getting this day. Like, as soon as we lose something, we get it right back in another way. There was a lot of things to worry about, but it just seemed like, I don't know how or why things are going to work out, but I always know they will. And that's what everybody should have the opportunity, just to be themselves, to do what they would be doing. Otherwise, this isn't the end. This is not a limitation. There's nothing you can't do. With all the support that I've gotten since my accident and seeing how other people are living in similar situations as mine, I always want to give back. Between my chair and my phone, I can do almost anything, especially in my room, because I'll have it set up to where I can use my phone to control the TV, the lights, thermostat, and that type of thing at home. On campus, I can just control my computer from my phone.
Music.
And so, right, music, and it's a big part of my mentality because it gives me a lot of freedom, a lot of independence. Every single person has a story, and each of us can learn something from each other's stories. So I would encourage everybody to just go out and learn other people's stories. Go sit with people, talk with people, and just see what you can learn from someone else's story.
Stress, depression, and severe mental illness can happen to anyone. Team Wellness Center has been helping those struggling with these conditions in southeastern Michigan.
They get a chance to know that somebody's on their team.
We think nobody else feels the pain that we feel. We feel like I'm the only one, but that is so untrue.
Within 24 hours of reaching out to our team, members receive psychiatric evaluations and begin the necessary treatment for recovery.
Working through my problems and seeing that I'm not the only one that has to cope has really brought me to a place where now it's okay to talk about it.
Because if you keep stuff to yourself, you can't overcome. We all need one another.
Team Wellness Center. You are not alone.
Thank you for watching. In these unprecedented times, we all need to stick together, even if we can't be together. You'll find the complete catalog of My Healthy Mind episodes on our website at myhealthymind.com. And we, of course, will continue to bring you new shows as best we can. In the meantime, be well and stay safe. And be sure to subscribe to our shows with the link below. Let's talk about it.